You're 65 years old. You've just come out of a surgery. Your arm is in a sling. You've got a flight of stairs between you and your bedroom, and there is nobody to help you up those stairs. No spouse, no kids, no grandkids down the hall. Just you, a railing, and whatever's left in your tank after a hospital visit. That's not a hypothetical. That's the life of Amy Cant, a 65-year-old woman who spoke to the Wall Street Journal about what it actually feels like to age alone in America. And when the reporter asked her to sum it up in one sentence, she said 4 words that I think are going to stick with a lot of you. It all falls on me. Look, I know that's heavy, but if you're watching this video, there's a reason you clicked. Maybe you're single and getting older. Maybe you're divorced and starting over later in life. Maybe your kids moved across the country, or you're estranged from family, or you and your spouse just never had children. Whatever the reason, you're looking down the road and you're realizing something uncomfortable. The safety net you thought was going to be there, it might not be, and nobody is talking about this clearly enough. So today we're going to change that. Hello, I'm Anne. Welcome to my channel. This video is for educational purposes only and does not constitute legal, tax, or financial advice. Let's get right into it. Here's the thing. Aging alone is way more common than people want to admit. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, more than 27% of all adults over 60 in the United States live alone. 27%. That's more than 1 in 4 seniors, and that number has been climbing steadily for decades. Meanwhile, a 2022 AARP survey found that about 19 million Americans over the age of 50 are what researchers now call elder orphans, people who have no spouse, no partner, and no adult children to rely on for care as they age. 19 million people. That's not a niche problem. That's a full-blown national reality that most financial planning conversations completely ignore. And here's where it gets even more uncomfortable. A lot of these people aren't broke. They're not reckless. They saved. They worked hard. They did what they were supposed to do. And they still wake up one morning and realize that money alone doesn't solve the problem of aging without a support system. Because so much of what makes aging manageable isn't financial, it's logistical, it's emotional. It's about having someone who can drive you to your appointments, sit with you after a procedure, remind you to take your medication, and actually understand what you want to happen if you can't speak for yourself. That's what nobody warns you about. And I think that's why Amy Cant's story hits so hard. She's not someone who made terrible decisions. She enjoyed her life as a single woman. She built something for herself. But now she's staring down a checklist of tasks: medical planning, estate planning, housing decisions, legal documents, that most people split across an entire family. And she has to do all of it alone, on a fixed income, on a timeline that's not entirely hers to control. So let's break this down into real, actionable steps. And I mean real. None of that vague, talk to a professional stuff without actually telling you what that means, who to talk to, what to ask, and what it's going to cost you. We're going to get into all of it. Let's start with money, because if the logistics of aging alone are a house, financial planning is the foundation. And if the foundation is cracked, it doesn't matter how nice the rest of the house looks. Here's a brutal truth that I need you to sit with for a second. People who age with partners or family nearby have something solo agers often don't even think about until it's too late: a built-in financial check. A spouse who notices when you're spending erratically. A daughter who spots the warning signs when dad starts making bad investment decisions. An adult child who can step in and prevent a major financial mistake before it becomes irreversible. When you're aging alone, you don't have that. And according to research from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, older adults lose an estimated $3 billion every year to financial exploitation and elder fraud. The fastest growing victims? People who live alone, because isolation is the #1 risk factor. And it's not always some scammer calling from overseas. Sometimes it's a contractor, a financial advisor, or even someone the person considered a trusted friend. This is exactly why you need to build a professional team before you need one. Not when you're in crisis, not when you're recovering from surgery and someone's pressuring you to sign something. Before, while you still have full clarity, full decision-making capacity, and time on your side. First up, a fee-only financial advisor. I'm specifically saying fee-only because these are advisors who get paid directly by you, not through commissions on the products they sell you. That matters enormously when you're aging alone, because a commission-based advisor has an incentive to recommend products that benefit them. A fee-only advisor's incentive is to keep you as a happy client. You can find certified fee-only financial planners through the National Association of Personal Financial Advisors, NAPFA. They have a searchable database. Use it. When you meet with a financial advisor, here's what you want them to help you think through. How long does your money actually need to last? We're living longer than ever. A 65-year-old woman today has about a 1 in 3 chance of living past 90. That means your savings and Social Security and whatever retirement income you have needs to stretch for potentially 25 to 30 years. That's not a retirement. That's a second career in length. You also want to talk about required minimum distributions from retirement accounts, because once you hit 73, the IRS requires you to start pulling money out of your traditional IRA or 401k, whether you need it or not. And if you're not planning for that, it can create surprise tax bills that eat into fixed income living. A good financial advisor will walk you through all of this in language you actually understand. But here's the piece that trips up even well-prepared solo agers: the estate planning side. And this is where I see the biggest gaps. People spend years building up assets and then die with no will, no trust, no designated powers of attorney, and their entire estate ends up in probate, controlled by a court system, distributed according to laws that have absolutely nothing to do with what they actually wanted. You need to talk to an estate attorney, not an online template, an actual licensed estate attorney. Yes, it costs money, but it is one of the most important investments you will ever make. And when you're aging alone, it becomes even more critical because there's no default fallback person to step in and manage things. Here's your minimum viable estate plan. A will. This tells the court what happens to your stuff. A living trust. This can help your assets pass to your beneficiaries without going through probate, which can take years and cost thousands in legal fees. A durable power of attorney for finances. This designates someone you trust to manage your money if you become incapacitated. A healthcare proxy or healthcare power of attorney. This gives someone the legal authority to make medical decisions on your behalf. And an advanced healthcare directive, also called a living will. This spells out in writing what kind of medical interventions you do or don't want if you're unable to communicate. That last document, the advance directive, that might be the single most important piece of paper a solo ager ever creates. Because without it, in a medical emergency, doctors are going to do everything possible to keep you alive. Which sounds good until you actually read what everything possible can look like. You want to have made that decision on your own terms, in your own words, when you were clear-headed and free of pressure, not have it made for you by a medical team in an ER who's never met you before. If you're thinking, okay, but who do I actually name? I don't have a spouse or kids. That's a legitimate question, and we're going to come back to it. But first, let's talk about where you're going to live. Housing might actually be the most emotionally charged decision you'll make as a solo ager, because it's not just about square footage or monthly costs. It's about identity. It's about independence. It's about who you want to be as you get older. Amy Kant is currently living in a condo with stairs. And stairs, by the way, are one of the most underestimated hazards in home safety for older adults. The CDC reports that falls are the leading cause of fatal and non-fatal injuries among adults 65 and older. Every year, about 36 million falls are reported among older adults in the U.S., resulting in more than 32,000 deaths. And stairs are a major contributor. When you're living with a partner, you've got someone who can help you navigate those stairs. Call for help if you fall. Notice if something's wrong. When you're alone, a fall can be catastrophic, not just physically, emotionally too. The fear of falling and not being found is something solo agers talk about a lot when they're being honest. So the housing question isn't just, where do I want to live? It's, where can I live safely, independently, and within my budget for potentially the next 20 or 30 years? There are a few tiers to think about here. If you're in your early to mid-60s and still mostly healthy, option 1 is just downsizing smart. Instead of moving to a specific senior community, you find a smaller, single-story home in a walkable area that requires minimal upkeep, is close to medical facilities, and doesn't trap you in car dependency. If you choose this route, do it intentionally. Don't just pick any single-story home. Think through the bathroom layout. Walk-in showers are dramatically safer than tubs. Think about doorway widths in case you ever need a walker or wheelchair. Think about whether you can actually afford the home's upkeep on your own. Option 2 is a 55-plus community. These are specifically designed neighborhoods or complexes for adults 55 and over. They typically don't provide medical care, but they offer something deeply valuable for solo agers: community, built-in social connection. Neighbors who are in similar life stages, staff who handle maintenance, repairs, and landscaping, which become real burdens when you don't have a partner or family nearby to help. Many 55-plus communities also include amenities like fitness centers, pools, clubhouses, and group activities that actively combat the isolation that is one of the biggest health risks for aging adults living alone. And isolation isn't just a quality of life issue. Research from Brigham Young University found that social isolation increases the risk of premature death by about 26%, roughly the same as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So when we're talking about housing decisions, we're not being dramatic when we say community matters as much as cost. Option 3 is a continuing care retirement community, or CCRC. These are the more comprehensive option. A good CCRC allows you to move in while you're still relatively independent, and then receive increasingly intensive levels of care: assisted living, memory care, skilled nursing, all within the same community, without having to uproot yourself again. For solo agers, the appeal is enormous. You make one move, you build relationships and community, and you have a clear path forward, regardless of what your health trajectory looks like. The trade-off is cost. CCRCs are not cheap. Many require a significant entrance fee, sometimes ranging from $100,000 to $500,000 or more, depending on location and the type of contract, plus monthly fees. There are different contract structures, so you'll want an elder law attorney or financial advisor to review the specific terms before you sign anything. But for people who can afford it and who want to eliminate the uncertainty of what happens if my health declines, a CCRC can be an extraordinarily smart long-term move. Whatever option you choose, make this decision while you have time and options, not under pressure. Now let's talk about the thing that keeps solo agers up at night more than almost anything else: medical care. Here's the problem. The American healthcare system is not designed for people who show up alone. Every form, every consent, every discharge instruction, every make sure you don't drive after the procedure, the whole system quietly assumes there's a person standing next to you, a +1. A default emergency contact who is also available at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. When that person doesn't exist, the gaps become really visible really fast. So how do you build a medical support structure when you're aging alone? Step 1. Don't wait for a crisis to find a primary care doctor you actually like and trust. This sounds obvious, but a huge number of people are seeing whoever's available when something goes wrong. That's not a medical team. That's a slot machine. You want a doctor who knows you, your history, your preferences, and your goals. The kind of relationship that takes time to build, which is exactly why you start now, not later. If you can afford it, and this is worth seriously exploring, look into a concierge medicine practice. Concierge doctors operate on a membership model. You pay a monthly or annual retainer fee, typically somewhere between $100 to $300 a month, depending on the practice. And in exchange, you get longer appointments, same-day or next-day access, direct cell phone contact, and a physician who has the bandwidth to actually learn who you are. For solo agers, that last part is gold. A doctor who knows you well is dramatically better at catching things early, advocating for you in a hospital setting, and understanding the full context of your health when making decisions. Beyond your primary care doctor, think about home healthcare services. These are licensed healthcare professionals who come to your home. Nurses, physical therapists, occupational therapists, home health aides, for anywhere from a few hours a day to around-the-clock care, depending on your needs. If you've had a surgery, a serious illness, or a significant decline in mobility, home healthcare can be the difference between recovering at home safely and ending up in a facility before you're ready. Home health aides in particular are incredibly valuable for solo agers who've stopped driving or who need help managing medications, keeping appointments, and, here's the one people don't think about until it's too late, having someone in the room with them at medical appointments. Because when you're hearing a diagnosis, a new treatment plan, or complicated discharge instructions, your brain is under enormous stress. You don't retain half of what you're told. A home health aide or patient advocate can sit with you, take notes, ask follow-up questions, and make sure you actually understand and remember what was said. If home health care sounds expensive, here's what you need to know. Medicare covers certain home health services if they're deemed medically necessary and ordered by a physician. Medicaid covers more extensive home-based care for those who qualify based on income and assets. And if you have long-term care insurance, this is exactly what it's designed for. If you don't have long-term care insurance and you're in your early to mid-60s, it's worth getting quotes now. The premiums are much more manageable when you're younger and healthier. Okay, we've talked about money, we've talked about housing, we've talked about medical care, but there's one more piece that I think is the most emotionally complicated part of aging alone, and I don't want to gloss over it. Who's in your corner? When you're aging alone, one of the hardest things isn't the paperwork. It's asking people to step into roles that traditionally belong to family. Asking a close friend to be your healthcare proxy feels awkward. Asking someone to be your power of attorney feels like an enormous imposition. So a lot of solo agers just don't ask. They let those forms sit blank. They keep putting it off. And then something happens, and now everyone's scrambling. Here's a reframe that might help. You know how people talk about chosen family? This is what that actually means in practice. The friends, neighbors, colleagues, or community members you've built genuine relationships with over the years. These people can step into support roles if you have honest conversations with them and make your wishes clear. But you can also hire professionals to fill some of these gaps. A daily money manager can handle bill paying and financial organization for people who want oversight but don't want to burden a friend. A geriatric care manager, sometimes called an aging life care professional, is essentially a specialized navigator who helps older adults and their families manage the complex, overlapping decisions around healthcare, housing, and support services. For solo agers, a geriatric care manager can be a lifeline. They know the local landscape of services. They can coordinate between your medical providers, and they can be the consistent human presence that helps you avoid falling through the cracks. There are also elder law attorneys, different from estate attorneys, who specialize in issues specific to aging, Medicaid planning, guardianship, nursing home contracts, and Social Security. If you're anticipating that your assets might eventually need to fund long-term care, an elder law attorney can help you structure things in ways you probably haven't thought of. And if you're someone who truly has nobody to name as a power of attorney or healthcare proxy, look into professional fiduciaries. These are licensed individuals or organizations that can legally act as your agent. They charge fees, but they're regulated and accountable in ways that a well-meaning friend may not be. Look, I know we've covered a lot of ground here, and I know some of this feels overwhelming. Believe me, I understand. When you lay it all out, the financial planning, the housing decisions, the medical team, the legal documents, the support network, it can feel like climbing a mountain. But here's what I want you to take away from everything we've talked about. The people who are most overwhelmed by aging alone are the ones who waited, who kept thinking they had more time, who assumed things would work themselves out, who were uncomfortable having the hard conversations and so didn't have them until there was no other choice. The people who navigate aging alone with something close to peace, and they do exist and I've seen it, are the people who started early, who treated it like a project, who built their team one piece at a time and got the documents in order while they still had clarity and options and time. Amy Kant said, "It all falls on me." And she's right. For solo agers, a lot of it does fall on you. But here's the other side of that coin. It falls on you to make the decisions, yes, but the decisions themselves, you don't have to make them alone. You can hire experts. You can lean on community. You can build a team that has your back even when blood relatives don't. That's not sad. That's actually kind of empowering. So here's your action list. Not someday, this week. Step 1. If you don't have a will and a durable power of attorney, find an estate attorney in your area and schedule a consultation. Many offer free first consultations. Start there. Step 2. If you don't have a financial advisor you trust, specifically one who has experience working with retirees and solo agers, start looking. Go to napfa.org and search for fee-only planners in your area. Step 3. Think about your housing. Be honest with yourself. Is where you're living now going to work for you in 10 years? What about 20? Start having that conversation with yourself now, while you're choosing, not when you're forced. Step 4. Figure out your primary medical care situation. Do you have a doctor who actually knows you? If not, find one. And look into whether concierge medicine makes sense for your budget and health situation. Step 5. Have the hard conversations with the people in your life. Ask the friend you'd want by your side if they're willing to be your healthcare proxy. Have the talk. You might be surprised how honored people feel to be asked. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not less than because you're aging without a spouse or children. You are someone who has the chance, right now, to set yourself up intentionally, on your own terms. That is not a burden. That is a choice. And the best time to make it is right now. If this video helped you think about something differently, share it with someone you know who might need to hear it. And if you're starting to work through this yourself, drop a comment. Tell me where you're at, what feels most overwhelming, what questions you still have. I read every single one. Take care of yourself, because nobody's going to do it for you, and that's actually okay.